there, how are you this morning?
My name is Lily, but my friends call me Gus. I'll be your bus driver for this school year. Come on in. Watch your step, find a seat, and make yourself comfortable. It's fall, and the 2016-2017 school year is just begun. Our kids are busy learning, while we adults are working hard to pay the bills. Take the Eau Claire School District, for example. You may have heard by now that we're having a referendum in November. A vote on whether or not homeowners will pay more for educating our children.
We're running in a deficit situation, and right now our projected deficit is $5.8 million.
The state will say that they did not cut funding for this budget. On the surface, it would appear that everybody is going to be doing a little bit better in public education with this budget, but that's not necessarily the case. You really have to get into the nitty-gritty of the allocation of money and where the money in the general budget goes for education.
Which is more complicated and harder to explain, rocket science or school funding in Wisconsin?
School funding in any place is the hardest thing in the world to explain. It's kind of like a Russian novel, because it goes on and on and on forever, and in the end everyone dies.
Schools is a very important part of my job.
Do the people in your district ever talk to you about school funding?
Incessantly, constantly. It is the #1 issue in my district.
The state, through the state taxes that are collected, funds education.
1, 2, ready.
Long ago in a Badger state far, far away, we funded schools differently. Then came the early 1990s.
23 years ago, yep. So 23 years ago, they kind of said, here's what your spending is.
When people market, they're usually talking about 1994, where they instituted what are called the revenue limits or the revenue caps.
Revenue caps. You're going to hear that term used a lot.
We call it a revenue cap, but it's really a spending limit.
There are 424 school districts in the state, right?
There are.
Do any two of those districts have the same revenue cap?
No, I'm sure not. Can't imagine that there's any 2 school districts that are spending exactly the same amount. I would be shocked.
So, that means there are 424 different revenue caps in the state of Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm. We're the 8th largest school district in the state, and yet we rank well below the state average.
To be exact, Eau Claire's revenue cap is $400 below the state per pupil average.
So 7th is Waukesha. In 15-16 they had 12,948 students, and they were spending about $200 less than the state average. Their cap was $10,166. They have more students. It could be because they've been spending differently, all along. If I look at the 9th largest, that's Sheboygan, and they have 10,159 students, and their spending is $10,495, which again is less than Eau Claire. They are spending a little above the state average, about $100. Because they were spending more, they're spending above the state average, so they get more per pupil. Seems a little crazy, but that's how the formula works.
If Eau Claire received the same equalized state funding that Waukesha or Sheboygan, the 7th and 9th ranked districts get, its $3.9 million deficit would be non-existent. Gone like pepperoni pizza in the school lunchroom.
I think that communities support their schools differently. I mean, you're compared to La Crosse a lot, and they have had 3 successful operating referendums. If our district was funded like La Crosse was over the last 23 years, we would have $222 million more.
Sorry, bit of a detour. Had to stop by the shop. Something up with the bus. What seems to be the problem, Tim?
It looks like your funding mechanism is broken.
Oh, we've known for years that the school funding system was broken.
We have amazing results considering our demographics and the fact that our funding mechanism in Wisconsin has been pretty broken for a very long time.
I can't think of a single school district or a single school administrator who likes the school funding system that we have now. Everyone loses. They may not lose equally, but everyone loses under the current system. The state legislature would like you to think that you're saving taxes because you're not paying as high state taxes. We've increased local tax revenue. And so in the end, the taxpayer doesn't win, no. And the children certainly don't win. So neither the taxpayer nor the children win. That's an easy one. I mean, that's clear. That's the only clear thing. Everything else is convoluted and crazy.
There were choices to make that were additions or enhanced education, and now we make choices to survive. What is a choice between paying teachers and keeping up your buildings? Why do we have to sit here and think about putting one above the other when they're both extremely important.
Other districts can pay more, and it'd be unrealistic to expect our teachers to ignore those economic realities and stay where they're going to be paid less.
We've become quite competitive in the sense that we have many staff that have left because we are not competing with what teachers can make in Minnesota, or even smaller districts around us who are funded at a higher level than we are in Eau Claire.
Oh, hi! I'm just writing a postcard to one of my favorite teachers ever, Miss Johnson. She works in Minnesota now. Got a 15% raise.
I know that if we stay on this road, what would happen if a district didn't pass a referendum and their working capital over, the deficit that you would have would go away? You'd have no borrowing power, you'd have no money to pay anything. What would you do then? And not one legislator that I've asked can give me that answer.
It's entirely possible, and there is no plan in the state to deal with the 8th largest school district shutting down. No one has thought through at the state level. No one has thought through what would happen if the school district in Eau Claire shut down.
So districts like Eau Claire have learned to be proactive.
We'll actually be developing almost 2 budgets. We'll be going in with the staff that we have in place, and then if we don't get support for the referendum, then we will be going through the next year looking at the adjustments that we would have to make with a lesser amount of money.
I don't think we should be going out and begging for our operational costs. I don't think that's the right way to do it, nor does it send a good message to our employees or for us as a business or anything like that.
It's pretty clear that school districts across Wisconsin are unhappy with the way they're being funded by the state. We've heard the system's complicated. We've heard it's broken. What now?
There are solutions. To say that the funding formula has not been changed because there was not enough money is flat out wrong. What we need is comprehensive school funding reform, and we need it to happen as soon as possible.
I would propose in the state of Wisconsin that we take a look at our school funding system and start it all over again. Just press reset and look at what students need, fund more for special ed students because they are more expensive typically, and that we also take a look at where our money comes from. Then we could take schools off of the property tax revenues. Is that practical? No, I'm thinking big. Practically, to get that through a legislature would be horribly hard.
Easier to let educators get down to business.
Our overall goal is always for each student in each family to have the very, very best educational experience they can. Because we know that if they have that good experience and they see that growth among their students, that we've done our job. Our hope and faith as a school district is invested in that we believe that we provide a quality service to the community, and we believe that when they understand the situation that we're in and the need we have, that they will step up for our children.
Maybe this is simply a matter of you get what you pay for. But what do I know? I'm just a hard-working, community-supporting, tax-paying bus driver. I guess where we head from here is up to you, voters of Eau Claire and Wisconsin. It's either pay the roofer or pay the piper. Have a nice referendum.